Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here and for your interest in Girl Rising. Girl Rising's mission is so critical today, to use the power of storytelling to change the way the world values girls and their education. All of us at Girl Rising do this work to meet our vision of the future is where all girls can thrive with vast possibilities. As many of you know, Girl Rising released its first documentary in 2013, and since then it's become a nonprofit and is greatly expanding its programming. My name is Meg Porfido. I serve on the Girl Rising board with an exceptional group of leaders, including Eliza Willison, who many of you might know, who was the founder of Global Education Fund. Eliza and I joined the board in 2018, when we folded GEF work under Girl Rising. We've been thrilled to work with the team firsthand and see how Girl Rising is filling such a significant gap in the delivery of education. We wanted to just point out quickly, when we talk about programming, what do we mean? And Girl Rising does this in three main ways: create, collaborate, and we activate. So first we create. What does that mean? We create original content, stories of the girls themselves, stories of the power and potential of girls, and the tremendous courage they show as they pursue their education. With these stories, we then create education curricula, television and radio programming, and books and other learning materials. Second, we collaborate, and that's what you're going to see tonight, with nonprofits, educators, community leaders across the globe to use these resources, adapt them to the local needs in their communities, and help them change the way their communities value girls and their education, and actually the way girls value themselves. Third, we activate, using these stories to inspire people everywhere to be advocates for girls and part of the movement for gender parity. While there have been tremendous strides and gains in girls' education over the last 20 years, we've had quite a rough spot now. School disruptions because of COVID have threatened this progress, and millions of girls are at risk of never returning to the classroom. A year like this one, like no other, Girl Rising and the remarkable partners have pivoted and are innovating to make sure their kids in their communities are still learning and will be able to return to school when schools reopen. You're going to hear some of that tonight. I'm truly inspired by how our local partners and Girl Rising have approached these really challenging times and unforeseen circumstances. It gives me a lot of hope, and I think it's going to give you a lot of hope too. Tonight is one of 3 virtual events we're holding on the Girl Rising Global Education Fund. Our focus tonight is on risk and resilience, high stakes for girls' education during COVID-19. I hope you can join us for the next 2, December 10th, 2nd and 10th. We'll send you out more information on that. There'll be different topics, they'll be at different times of days, but we'll do it through the lens of the fund. So you'll just get more information on the work there. With that, I would really love to introduce Christina, Girl Rising CEO, who will kick us off. Thanks, Christina.
Sure. Thanks so much, Meg, and welcome everyone. It's so nice to see the faces that I can see and some people that I know and names that I know and some new faces and names. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Christina Lowry, and I have the great honor of leading Girl Rising and working with Meg and our committed board members and our talented team, including here tonight, Judith Registre, our Vice President of Programs, and Kathy Bartlett, Director of the Girl Rising Global Education Fund, both of whom you'll hear from later. I was part of the original team that created the Girl Rising film and now lead our work in 11 countries. We work with over 120 local partners, reaching over 200,000 adolescents and nearly 10,000 teachers. Meg talked a little bit about our work, and I'll tell you a little bit more here, and then I'm going to dive into details about the Global Education Fund. But a word about the kind of partners we work with. Our partners range in size, in model, and location, but what they have in common is their focus on engaging girls and boys joyfully in learning, helping to build the skills, confidence, and mindsets that will help them learn, stay in school, successfully complete their education, and achieve better life outcomes as a result. One of the key ways we work with partners is by adapting and integrating our curriculum in their existing programs. And this curriculum, as Meg mentioned, is based on our stories. And we hear from partners all the time that it's rich and engaging and that it connects with kids. The stories connect with kids in really deep ways. And they so look forward to their Girl Rising sessions. The curriculum teaches self-awareness, critical thinking, empathy. It sparks an interest in kids in the world as young people get to see their peers in other places and the challenges they face and the courage that they summon to overcome those challenges. And importantly, it helps girls and boys both to explore and challenge the unwritten rules that too often keep girls and boys both in a very narrow box of what they can and should be in life. And so as a result, our curriculum helps them think about, dream for, and plan for their future differently. So as Meg mentioned, tonight our focus is on one initiative at Girl Rising, a unique model with local education leaders in India and Kenya called the Girl Rising Global Education Fund. Some of you here tonight are investors already in this fund, and some are new. So I'll take just a few minutes and explain the model. The Girl Rising Global Education Fund is a 4-year venture philanthropy fund. It's a new model in the world of nonprofit work and philanthropy for social impact. And ours is a 3-step program. First, we source and select local leaders in education in currently Kenya and India. Second, we invest in and develop their models with them. We provide our resources to them and mentor them. And the third step is that we work with them to advance their work upon exit from the fund. Along the way, we track milestones and impact goals that we develop with each leader at the beginning. So broadly, the expected outcomes at the end of the 4 years are that these leaders and their organizations are in a better position to sustain and grow their work upon exit from the fund. So specifically, the fund provides multi-year grants and support to a portfolio of local education leaders. All of them have culturally relevant ideas to improve education quality and to promote gender equity in their communities. One of the unique things we think is that it allows donors to plan giving with a specific start and end date, and to understand with more specificity what their support, the impact that their support is having. It also allows us at Girl Rising to expand the use of our tools and resources and learn alongside the teachers and youth and leaders about how to best use these tools, how to best adapt them, and what works in different locations and in different contexts. Besides the grantees that receive funding, we also work with a handful of local organizations in each place who have access to the Girl Rising tools and who together create an ecosystem so they can provide peer support to each other and other avenues to extend their impact. So those are the basics on the model. And now I'd love to tell you a bit about the 4 extraordinary grantees in the fund, and then Kathy in a little bit will talk about their progress to date as part of the fund. So the Milan Foundation in India is addressing the absence of girl leaders and role models by developing what they call their Girl Icon Fellows, a peer-led program that tackles and has at its heart experiential life skills projects. Slam Out Loud, also in India, is using artist fellows to bring arts into schools and to improve learning environments and enhance academics and improve social emotional learning and life skills. And you'll hear in a little bit the amazing ways that Slam Out Loud has pivoted this year. Sunflower Trust in Kenya is addressing dropout rates by enhancing literacy, leadership, and social emotional skills for at-risk girls as they finish primary school and transition into secondary school. A huge drop-off point for many girls around the world is that transition from primary to secondary. And Big Picture Learning is also in Kenya, and they're developing skills and interests in vocational and internship opportunities for kids that are unlikely to go on to university. So where are we in the fund right now? We are at the end of the second year, and what a year. As we all know, this has been a year like no other, and the same is certainly true for our grantee partners. They have truly been at the forefront of keeping girls and boys, the girls and boys that they serve, learning, safe, and engaged through school lockdowns. In Kenya, schools have been closed since March, and they have plans to begin again in January, but kids have not been in school all year. We've worked closely with each of them to understand their needs, support their solutions, and adapt our tools to these changing circumstances also. And last week, Kathy had the chance to sit down with all 4 of these leaders and have a conversation. And they told us about what they're seeing on the ground, about the risks that girls are facing due to school lockdowns, the challenge in the lack of access to technology, which for so many around the world is a lifeline, but for kids that don't have them, that lifeline is not there. And also on the very real impact of health and well-being on girls. And they also shared with us how they're responding to the needs of their communities. And they shared incredible stories of resilience, community created solutions. And I think one of the things that struck me so much was how much the youth in their programs are stepping up as leaders in their community, identifying needs and rolling up their sleeves to serve the needs of their community. So we'd like to share just a brief clip. It's about a 5-minute clip of this conversation. And in it, you'll hear from Rukia of Sunflower Trust and Durendra from Milan Foundation.
So Sunflower works with school-going children from grade 5 to grade 7. So suddenly schools were closed in March without any notice. So, you know, gathering was stopped, like there's no gathering of more than 5 people. And here we are, we had like a whole year program, we had a curriculum to implement. So it left us so confused. So just interacting with parents, we started also getting requests in terms of parents who would send us some things in WhatsApp and, you know, just reading materials and learning materials. Will you print this for me? My daughter, you know, she needs to study. And then we realized like, despite the government emphasizing on online learning and online reading materials, our target group, like maybe only 5% could access the online reading materials. The rest could not because they don't have, either the parents don't have smartphone, they don't have bundles to open those materials that were sent, they don't have computers to join Zoom calls. So as an organization, we said, okay, what will we do apart from, you know, just talking to them on phones? So that's how we decided like to be giving them reading materials or revision materials every week. So we started that in April. So every week we would actually source for revision materials for the different classes. And we opened it to not only our beneficiaries, but even now there are other siblings, neighbors, whoever would want to access revision materials. And it worked perfectly. So if this week they take the revision materials, next week they return it. And then we also mark just to see also like, you know, they're at least improving or where their weaknesses were in academics. It worked perfectly. We could see the, you know, that the graph is growing and everything until when in August, the lockdown, things started to open up. So it came out clearly that children are at risk, especially girls. So there was a lot of teenage pregnancies that was being recorded. And again, so people, organizations needed to do something. And the most thing that the government was emphasizing on was not to teach the education curriculum, but now to teach the kids on behavioral change. So it worked to our advantage and we worked with the government. So we got the approval. So we brought back our girls at the center, though keeping in mind COVID is still there. And so we also needed to, the government needed to approve the setup and everything. So we worked with the government to have the different classes coming in different days, and it worked perfectly. So since August until then, we have the girls physically at the center, which has helped us a lot because now we work together, we talk, like, because there are a lot of mental health issues that they're also facing, apart from, you know, not being in school. There are other issues, peer pressure. So we get to talk to them one-on-one, and also bringing reproductive health sessions, which has really helped because when you ask them about, do you know anyone who has gotten pregnant, maybe in your class, they will say, yes, I know someone, my neighbor, she's only 14 and she's already pregnant. So they're also coming from those high risk areas. And I think just opening up Sunflower to them has really helped them out, because we have those sessions. Even today, we've had sessions with them.
And so Khushbu comes from a minority community. It's a slum community, and almost everybody in and around her is a daily wage worker. So women goes to people's houses to help, and the men would go and work in shops as daily wage workers, and that's how it works. There's a lot of mobility was a very big concern initially because of the parda that they have to follow. And so when Khushbu started her work in 2016 with us, it was just difficult for her to even get a small group of girls together, have a conversation, and people will have talked about her mobility and then start talking about her and her character and make stories. I'm going to just do a fast forward to COVID times. So COVID time happens, everybody loses their job. Women can't go to people's houses to work, men can't go to shop. Whatever savings little that they have, they run out in the first 2 weeks. And now families were struggling to even get food on the table. Uttar Pradesh is also where this community is. It's a very politically active state at this moment of time. So, you know, they're both religious groups kind of figuring out who wants to cash in there. And then women in the community started approaching Khushbu saying, you know, you're the one who can read and write. You're the one who can speak. Can you get us help? Because, you know, we don't have food to, you know, feed our kids. And Khushbu reached out to us, and we worked with her. And she was able to do surveys, collect all the data, put the forms together, because I think the idea was that even Milan comes in, we need the government to come and support. We can't just do everything ourselves. So we provided 2 weeks of rations to about 100 plus families in her community. And then with all the data, we were able to, she was able to kind of go to the local PDS officer, which is a public distribution service officer, to get proper ration supplies for her community. Wow. What that actually does was her respect and the social recognition has reached to a different level. The schools have just opened. And I know Khushbu every year used to struggle mobilizing children to get them admitted in school. And this year it was not a problem because people were reaching out to her saying, can you help our son or a daughter to get admission in the school? And I think those are the stories of change that I was talking about. It's not just of her leadership, but the entire perception of the community changing. 100 plus households looking at her for a ray of hope was really a tick mark on our success of the Girl Icon program. And I think, I think I would share Khushbu's stories. And I'm going to speak a quick more on one more thing is, I think what the COVID also did was shown us how the Girl Icons actually jumped in, especially the alumni, to help us. We had over 6,000 girls on the ground, and there was no way we could call them up and reach out. And most of our alumni actually jumped in and support, and about 18 of them actually landed up even supporting us into program. And we realized how good they are as facilitators now. So I think there are many stories that have come into, but the stories of resilience, the society accepting the leader as a young girl who has the voice choice and she is going to use it, you like it or not. I think that is something that I would say as a success story, and we really celebrate it.
So I just want to encourage people, if you have any questions as Kathy's talking, please feel free to just put them in the chat. We'll have a chance for questions, and we'll be looking through them, but we'll have a chance for questions in just a little bit, but feel free to just plop them right into the chat. Kathy, over to you.
So my name is Kathy Bartlett. I have the pleasure of being the director of Girl Rising Global Education Fund. And I'm extraordinarily lucky and humble to be working with the founders of the 4 grantee partners. You just met Rukia and Durendra. I also work with Carol and Jagasia, both from Kenya and India. And in future events, you will see them as well. You'll see more about them. The thing that strikes me about them is that they are passionate, fiercely intelligent, amazingly innovative, and their leadership during this year, along with that of their teams, has been extraordinary and has been inspiring to me every single day. My calls with them over the course of the year started out as, oh my goodness, will they survive? To watching them really roll up their sleeves and take action with their teams.
Thank you, Kathy. Durendra's story of Khushbu is remarkable, and it is a story we have heard over and over this year of young women who have stepped forward as leaders in their community, addressing their needs and advocating on behalf of others. It's why we do this work and why investing in girls and their education is one of the world's best investments. Durendra, like all the leaders of the GR-GEF grantees, is passionate, fiercely intelligent, and wonderfully innovative. And what the Milan Foundation and our other program partners have achieved is really astounding. It's also a testament to this model, which extends and broadens the reach and influence of all of our partners and grantees. So I'd now like to summarize what the 4 GR-GEF grantees have achieved in 2020, and I'm going to share my screen here. But rather than go over each and every detail, we'll be sharing this presentation with all of you after the event. As we shared, through the Girl Rising Global Education Fund, we provide unrestricted funding of roughly $20,000 per organization each year. In 2020, those funds were distributed early in order to help organizations retain their key staff and help adapt their programs in the wake of COVID-19. So here we go, starting with Slam Out Loud. Based in India and founded by 2 incredible women, Slam Out Loud uses performance and visual arts to empower children from disadvantaged communities to find their voice through creative expression. Through art forms such as spoken word, poetry, theater, visual arts, and storytelling, children develop skills like communication, collaboration, and empathy. This year, Slam Out Loud had big plans to organize 20 art fairs and reach over 2,000 children. But when our world shut down, they pivoted. They innovated, and their impact multiplied like never before. Slam Out Loud used low-tech platforms like WhatsApp to create an Art for All program, which at first provided daily art activities to over 100,000 children each day. As word spread of the impact and engagement of their arts program, they partnered with state governments in various regions of India and are now reaching over 4.5 million children with art-based activities. Milan Foundation, also based in India, is building a movement of girl leaders through their Girl Icon program. This girl-led leadership and mentorship initiative focuses on school retention, girls' health and well-being, gender-based violence, and developing agency and confidence. Each Girl Icon brings another 20 girls together and guides them through a local leadership program over 2 years. As communities felt the devastating impacts of COVID-19, Milan Foundation galvanized their network of 300 plus Girl Icons, provided them resources and training, and helped them support their community's needs. They sewed and delivered masks, delivered food packages and health and hygiene supplies, including menstrual supplies. They raised awareness of public safety measures, shared hotline numbers where girls could report incidences of gender-based violence. They became the eyes and ears of their community to protect other girls and boys, and in some cases, even prevented child marriages. Seeing the success of peer learning over the last months, Milan has also created regular online training and mentoring led by Girl Icon alumni. Sunflower Trust in Kenya was founded by Rukia Sebit, who you had a chance to hear from just a few moments ago. She is a passionate and dedicated advocate of every girl's right to learn, and this year has worked harder than ever to ensure that progress to girls' education in her community does not unravel. Sunflower Trust implements alternative and transformative learning programs for at-risk girls in Kibera by focusing on improving literacy and comprehension as well as leadership skills. While they had plans to partner with 6 nearby partner schools this year, serving over 100 girls, school closures meant they had to rethink how to serve their community. So they quickly organized to deliver emergency supplies to girls and their families and distributed a home learning guide developed together with our partner Metis. Since August, they have been able to safely bring small groups of girls together and deliver the Girl Rising curriculum, as well as critical emotional support and life skills training, including reproductive and menstrual health. Big Picture Learning in Kenya was founded by powerhouse Carol Owala, an educator and trainer of teachers and school leaders in some of the most marginalized areas of Nairobi. Big Picture Learning focuses on students who are most at risk of leaving school, a time that we know is so critical for girls and their futures. While they initially planned to pilot a new career readiness program serving more than 300 marginalized high school students, when school shut down in the wake of COVID-19, they mobilized to do what they have always done, ensure that no student gets left behind. They delivered virtual trainings to the students who had internet access, assembled emergency deliveries to girls and their families, and established 20 students as peer mentors, reminding them of their power and ability to transform their communities. Before we move on, we wanted to just pause here to see if anybody did have any questions about the overall model, about the particulars of the partners and of what we've shared so far.
Are investors required to commit to 4 years of funding? And do you take on new investors during the 4-year period?
Yes, absolutely, 1,000%. We take on new investors at any time people feel generous enough to contribute. So absolutely, it is a 4-year fund. Christina is going to share a little bit about some other things we're thinking about with the fund. Here's the way we think about it really. The best is multi-year pledges. We want to have a fund that we can understand that is fully funded, that people are set up to give us pledges annually. So that would mean a couple more years the way the fund is set up now. Really, we've had some incredibly generous people right off the bat who gave us some kickoff money with the fund in big dollars, $50,000 and more. And we've had a lot of investors at $10,000 a year, and we've had folks all the way down to $100, and they give it on an annual basis. So we're really able to be quite flexible as you're thinking about it. Multi-year is great at whatever level you can feel makes sense for you and your family.
Yeah, and I'll just say, currently, this fund supports the 4 partners that you just heard about, and our collaboration with them, and our collaboration with the network partners as well, for 4 years, so ending at the end of 2022. But we're right in the midst of considering 2 kind of strategic questions right now. One is whether to extend this fund and our work with these partners for an additional 2 years, because frankly, 2020 has delivered all of us a whole lot of unforeseen circumstances, and they and we have had to pivot from original plans. And so we feel like giving them some extra time would be a good thing. We also, from the innovations that Kathy just talked about, I think we see that we think that they and we together, our partnership, will take forward some of these innovations in ways that may shift a little bit what they're doing. So, so one thing is we're contemplating extending this fund and the work with these partners for 2 more years. And then we're also contemplating adding some additional partners that we work with right now, particularly in Guatemala, to a fund model, either this fund or a version of this that we would refine in some way. So we're going to make those decisions by the end of the year. We're really eager to hear from current investors about their level of interest, and particularly in extending out their commitments and pledges, because of course, by extending it, we know that that's going to mean we need to raise some more money to do that. So, so that answers the question about right now we're at 4 years, but we see this is a really interesting model, and we see real opportunity with both the partners we're working with now and some others to extend the work. Thank you so much. We're going to move on, but thank you for your questions. Other ones have come in, and we'll be sure to communicate back out if we don't have the chance to do it here tonight. So we'd also like to share with you some general updates on Girl Rising and other things that are happening in other parts of the organization. And to do that, Judith?
I'm going to briefly introduce myself. My name is Judith Regis. I am the Vice President of Programs here at Girl Rising. So within that context, and hearing what you've heard from Meg, from Kathy, from Christina about our grantee partners, I want to sort of put in context that Girl Rising works in 11 different countries with over 120 partners. And so the breadth and scope of our work around creating, collaborating, and activating is all about partnership. And so the context for us this year has been a period where we've had to redefine partnership and been taking to tests around this whole idea of what does trust looks like in partnership. And you've heard tons of that realization from your conversation with Kat, from what Kathy has explained to you with those partners. But this year for us, in terms of like pivoting and what we're doing at Girl Rising, in Guatemala, for example, we've had to rethink our program, and instead of actually face-to-face meeting, and adopted our curriculum to deliver via radio in a context where mobile phone access to technology was not, have you've heard, in the context of India. And so it's been an interesting and critical process for us to actually reconsider how we actually engage partnership in a context like Guatemala to ensure girls stay close to learning in this really critical period. One of the most exciting things that happened this year for us was the storytelling challenge. You've heard Meg talk about, and Christina talked about, the role of storytelling in our work. We ran a storytelling challenge where we had over 1,500 stories from around the world with our partners, HP. And what was fascinating about this whole process was over 50% of the stories that came was about menstruation and girls' health as it relates to access to education and their well-being. So this has been sort of like a very interesting way for us to understand gender equality in the broad scope and the struggle and opportunities facing girls. A big part of where we're heading in the next year and this year has been for us was really strengthen our M&E system. And I think those of you who are funding, investing in this fund, you understand that part of what you do is understanding what's the impact of your investment. And we're taking to task to realize that this is a key part of what we do, and we want to continue to do it in a way that we can demonstrate data at baseline, inline. And we had an earlier relationship with Georgetown University through funding from Nielsen Foundation that enable us to actually compile, assess, and aggregate past and current insights and data around all of our program over the years to build a comprehensive M&E system. We were lucky this year through a partnership and funding from a Kidna Foundation to get additional funding in the next 3 years to support our ongoing effort in building and strengthening our M&E system. I'm personally super excited about this because I think as we sort of move into this next phase of gender equality and advancing girls' education, without a doubt, the link and integration of stories and data will be critical to that process. And to be in a pivoting role to actually contribute to that is extraordinary. With that said, I think I'm gonna actually pause here and allow Christina to share with you some insight around some of the work we're doing around one of the fast moving issues I think all of us are really concerned about right now, climate change in girls' education. Christina?
Yeah, thank you so much, Judith. And this is so challenging to pack this all in one evening because we do have so much to share, both within the Girl Rising Global Education Fund and beyond. I'll just pick up what Judith just said. We are so thrilled to have received a major grant from the Echidna Foundation to really dig into measurement and evaluation and be able to, in an even more robust way, track the impact of our work. Another new initiative of ours is the development of a new film on the link between girls' education and climate change. We're in the early stages. We've researched, thought about, strategized about the kind of impact we want to have with a new major film effort. And this summer, we began the search for the young women who could help us tell these stories, whose stories help tell this story about the very important link between educating girls and addressing climate change and environmental protection. We don't have time for me to tell you as much as I would love to about this, but we'll put in the chat here. We have a link to a piece that Bloomberg Green did about this project and about us about a month ago. So please take a look, and I would be delighted to talk to anybody in more detail about this topic and about this project, because we are galvanizing supporters, and we are raising money, and we are really digging into big new storytelling and filmmaking around this incredibly important topic. We are over time, so I'm going to wrap us up here. First, I will say thank you again for joining us tonight. And any of us here, Meg, Eliza, Judith, Kathy, we're delighted to connect with you one-on-one and answer any questions. To me, and in just even hearing Kathy again talk about the ways that our partners have innovated and responded in this crisis, is a powerful proof point for me for this model, that these local leaders that we are working hand in hand with, they know their communities best. They have ideas that are locally grown, are effective, they can adapt and respond quickly, and they'll be there for the long term. And yet they need support and resources to help them implement these ideas. If you have already given, thank you so much. We are so grateful. We hope you'll join us in our next 2 events, and you'll get to hear more from our grantee partners. The time zones make it very challenging to do an evening event and have our colleagues in India and Kenya join us, but we will have one morning event, so we hope that they'll join us then, and you'll get to meet some of them in person. And if you haven't given, we invite you to be part of this inspiring community. You can donate on our website. There's a link in the chat. You can just put in the comment section for the Grow Rising Global Education Fund. And again, I am happy to speak to anybody one-on-one, as are my colleagues and board members here. This is important work. And as I look at what I see these organizations doing and the girls that they are serving, what's most extraordinary to me is that it's the girls, not only the organizations and the leaders of these organizations, but it is the youth that they serve that are showing up and putting their newfound confidence and their skills to use. And we all need their ideas and their talents and their energy. So thank you so much for helping us impact the lives of these kids. And we are so deeply grateful. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we look forward to being in touch with all of you. Thank you.